There's something that really hasn't been sitting with me right. Ever since I replayed Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3, I was sitting there thinking, how bad is King Boo really? So I wanted to, for a second, try to justify his actions and see if he was just by what he was doing to Egad, Luigi, and his friends, like Mario, Peach, and the Toads. So I was sitting there playing through the game and realized very quickly something strange was going on. These stories just don't make a lot of sense, especially from the first game, and I started to really dig in deep and find out maybe King Boo has his reasons. So today I want to ask the question, is Egad and Luigi actually the villains of the Luigi's Mansion franchise? You might think that's a crazy claim, but I actually have some evidence to maybe back up this claim. But before we dive into this, you guys have been so unbelievably supportive on the channel recently, with the last 3 days, us getting over 300 subscribers each day. Yesterday, you guys brought in a whopping over 260 brand new subscribers, so let's see if we can beat 260 today. Leave a like and subscribe if you love videos like this, and help us reach this goal. But let's dive into the theory that Egad and Luigi are actually the villains of Luigi's Mansion. So let's start off from the very beginning, with the very first game being Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube. This is where things were always pretty strange for me, where Egad spent the most of his younger career very much obsessed and fascinated by ghosts, and this will eventually lead him to explore even further once he's a lot older. He would go around the world and collect tons of different ghosts, and actually bring them back to his lab in order to investigate on, and then eventually turning them all into picture frames for him to have in his own little creepy museum. In fact, this is very strange because we know when they're placed in these frames, it's almost like an imprisonment. They're not dead, but instead they're just kind of locked and frozen in place inside these frames just to be a eyepiece, which is very strange, and it's something that is actually kind of sad when you think about it. These are souls that are supposed to be at peace, and this seems like some type of weird evil afterlife punishment for them, keeping them in prison inside of these frames. In fact, Egad could have created a mansion of his own and actually had them all reside inside, and even talked with them and communicated with them and actually helped them with their everyday lives, but also learned about them along the way. But nope, he traps them in frames and actually keeps them inside of his lab. It wasn't until King Boo came along in order to free all of these ghosts and created the mansion that we know from the first game. Now, we know King Boo seems to always have been evil. It seems like his main incentive was to get back at Mario for stomping and killing all the Boos in prior games, which I believe Mario only killed Boos in 64 and the Big Boo in Super Mario World. But nevertheless, he was angry about it and wanted to get back. But it was more than that. I think King Boo was more mad along the lines at Egad, because Egad is the one that captured Boo Lossus in the first place. And this is the main reason King Boo ordered an assault on Egad's lab, stealing all the Fortrit ghosts and actually freeing them from their imprisonment. And in doing so, he never really commanded them to work for him. Instead, he let them roam freely around the mansion and go to whatever rooms and do whatever they pretty much pleased. In fact, none of the ghosts in the game ever mention working for King Boo in the first place. They're just there having a good time. And then of course we know the story is about Egad trying to get these ghosts back, trying to place them back into the picture frames, which he gets the help from none other than Luigi. And poor Luigi is kind of dragged into this mess without really knowing what's going on. He just knows his brother had been kidnapped by King Boo, and it's his job to get him back. So he uses the poltergust and does exactly what Egad tells him to do, by capturing all the portrait ghosts. So is Luigi inherently bad? No, not really. He's just trying to save his brother from King Boo, and he got put in all this mess with Egad with the portrait ghosts. I mean, that's all Egad's fault. In fact, if it wasn't for Egad collecting these ghosts, it would just be a Luigi versus King Boo duel from the very beginning. But after Luigi helps Egad, each ghost gets pressed, zapped, and swirled in some type of washing machine until it's pressed thinly across a canvas to be a picture. And it's just kind of torture when you look at this device and how it works. It's extremely strange. And some might even say outright inhuman, which is in fact inhuman, even for a ghost. But the first game might have a lot of evidence for us, but it gets even deeper the further we go across the series. We know in the next game, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, or now known as Luigi's Mansion 2, that Egad actually moved to a new location, being Evershade Valley, which seems to be a big home to tons of different ghosts in the area. across 5 different mansions. And what's strange about this location is there seems to be something called the Dark Moon floating in the sky above Evershade Valley, and it controls all the ghosts, which is strange because we've never seen something like this in any of the other games. Ghosts have never been under control outside of Luigi's Mansion 3, but there's a big reason for that, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Luigi's Mansion 1, the ghosts were pretty much free and just doing what they pleased inside the mansion, messing with Luigi and bothering him. It's not like they were being mind controlled, at least we didn't think they were. Maybe they were and it just didn't show us. And we know that King Boo now is extremely mad at Egad, so all the games that follow are going to be about him trying to get his revenge. And of course, he does, because he gets free in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Well, the crazy part is, Egad had no care for capturing King Boo. Instead of putting him in a secure place, he ended up just selling the portrait in a garage sale. Yeah, literally just selling King Boo to some third-party person who actually was able to free King Boo somehow. So who did he sell it to? Was it Helen Gravely from Luigi's Mansion 3? Was it somebody else entirely? We still don't know. But it's very strange that he would do something so careless, because of course, King Boo gets free, and he ends up going to Evershade Valley and breaking the Dark Moon from the sky. This causes all the ghosts to go on a complete rampage, and of course, Luigi is called back again in order to help King Boo. But King Boo also once again takes Mario and puts him in a painting, and this time he's planning to do the same to Luigi and Egad, even though he never was successful. And it did make me wonder, how was the Dark Moon created in the first place? We know it was there before King Boo even reached Evershade Valley, so it wasn't from him, but it seems to have similar powers to King Boo's crown, and we'll talk about that also in a second. But with that said, perhaps Egad was the one that actually created the moon in the sky in the first place. Instead of putting the ghost in frames, he wanted to control them, and the best way to control them is using a piece of King Boo's crown, which maybe helped him control the ghost from the first game, and he does for the third game, which once again, I'll get into in a second. But maybe Egad is the one that actually put the moon up in the sky in order to brainwash these ghosts, which makes them even more evil, to be honest. And we know once the game is over, the Dark Moon goes back up into the sky, and the ghosts are no longer angry beings. So were they angry in the first place because Egad controlled them with this crystal? Are they actually just being free, and as soon as that crystal is placed into the sky, they're once again slaves, mindless drones working for Egad? It's hard to say. I mean, after all, it does give the ghosts a new look that we haven't seen with any ghost in the entire series. It actually gives them pupils, and instead of them being free, acting goofy, and playing around like children, instead they're all happy and loving and doing exactly what Egad says. It sounds like maybe they're just simply under his control because he made the Dark Moon. Maybe once again, this is a way for him to control these ghosts. This is a way for him to be this ultimate ruler of the paranormal world. He's treating these ghosts like his personal pets or slaves. He can imprison them, he can trap them, he can keep them in Evershade Valley as long as he has this crystal floating in the sky as the Dark Moon. Now, why is it that I think Egad made this moon out of King Boo's crown? Well, Luigi's Mansion 3 actually gives us answers, because it happens once again. King Boo is captured in Dark Moon and is freed by, this time, Helen Gravely in Luigi's Mansion 3. She owns the Last Resort Hotel, which is like this special staying place for ghosts around the world once again, and these seem to be extremely rare ghosts from different time periods and different places and locations as well, which is super unique. But once again, it's unsure if these ghosts are even helping Helen Gravely or King Boo in the first place, and instead they're just enjoying their times and stays in their individual rooms. And maybe Helen Gravely entrusted each one with an elevator button in order to reach the next floor. So it was completely up to them if they wanted to fight Luigi or if they wanted to just give him the elevator button. After all, there were some ghosts that didn't seem to care about the button, for instance like Morty, who just wanted to continue making his film, while other ghosts like Serpsy and Captain Fishhook are extremely aggressive and make Luigi work or even fight for that elevator button. And once again, King Boo captures Mario, but also Peach and Toads as well, and this time he is very set on capturing absolutely everybody, even the entire hotel if he has to, placing it all in one giant picture frame. But at the very end of the game, obviously he fails, and his crown pops off of his head. The ghosts are then about to attack Luigi until eventually the crown disappears, causing them to relax and calm down a bit. Kind of the opposite events of the Dark Moon in the sky, which once again makes me wonder, does the Dark Moon and King Boo's crown have the ability to control ghosts? Did King Boo actually control all the ghosts from the first game? And he was able to control all the ghosts in the third game, but what happens in the second game? Well, Egad uses some of that energy from King Boo's Dark Crown and actually fuses the Dark Moon, which he makes the Dark Moon function as his mind control remote. He is able to control the ghost with that moon, but without it, King Boo can control the ghost with his crown. So it's kind of a tug of war between who's controlling these ghosts, either King Boo or Egad, not necessarily making any of them the good guy, both of them being somewhat villains in their own way. Every single time, it seems like the ghosts are just stuck in the middle of this feud. But like I said before, it seems like Egad is the one that actually started this, trying to capture the Boos and including Boo Lossus in the first place. Egad's the one that started this war, and now King Boo wants to be the one that finishes it. I also want to take a side road off the beaten path for a second to talk about Egad also had some elements of creepiness with other games, specifically known for Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine, we know he's the creator of FLUDD, but also the magical paintbrush that Bowser Jr. actually wields in the game. Now this could have just been a complete freak accident where Bowser Jr. came in and stole this from Egad, or something happened where Egad was forced to make it for Bowser Jr., or he was going to be killed or something. It's hard to say, but he still made and gave Bowser Jr. the paintbrush, which actually caused all the havoc and chaos for the entire Delfino Island, all because of Egad's invention. If it wasn't for that, this probably never would have happened. So is Egad actually evil? Is he a villain of the series? Well, he's definitely not a hero. Clearly, he has some bad choices, and at the end of the day, he cares more about his research than the well-being of others, because clearly, locking lost souls inside picture frames is not the definition of a hero. Poor Luigi is constantly sucked in to be the accomplice, whether it's because he has to save his brother, or because he's drug into every situation because of Egad, where Egad is using Luigi in order to profit from every adventure that he goes on, collecting tons of profit in gold, and actually using all of this money to further fund his ghost research by building more laboratories, giant research facilities, and just putting more time and investment into this obsessive hobby with ghosts that he has. He already owns pretty much Evershade Valley, and with the Last Resort Hotel previously being a ghost tour spot, it's now a research facility that's owned by Egad and even designed after his likeness. Will Nintendo ever make Egad the actual villain of their stories? Probably never. He'll always probably be the good guy that helps Luigi in Nintendo's eyes, but not necessarily to me. I see what he's doing, and it kind of feels very wrong the way he treats these ghosts, and he did in fact start this feud because of his obsessive research. And I am curious to see, maybe there is a game where he's being mind controlled, or there's like a dark Egad or something along those lines, because I do think he could end up being a true threat one of these days. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Is Luigi and Egad actually the villains? Are they the bad guys that we've been looking for within the Luigi's Mansion series all this time? Is King Boo technically the good guy? Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for tuning in, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.